Well, leaders in the Republican Party are joining forces with Democrats in their political attacks against Judge Roy Moore. One America's Christian Rose has more.
Young people will face the same battles no matter whether it's in school, on your job, in your government, wherever you go. If you take a stand, you're going to come under persecution.
The ungrounded allegations of sexual misconduct against Alabama Senate candidate Judge Roy Moore have encouraged Moore's Democrat opponent, Doug Jones. The allegations were perpetrated by the mouthpiece of the globalist political left, The Washington Post, last week. Democrats and some members of the Republican establishment have joined forces against Judge Moore, which raises the question, what is at stake in the Alabama special election? Judge Moore's victory in the election is critical to President Trump's agenda of draining the swamp of corruption and machine politics in D.C. However, establishment Republicans want to prevent that in order to maintain their privileged position within the party, even if it comes at a cost of losing the Senate to the regressive left. A hypothetical loss of the election by Judge Moore would not give the Democrats a majority in the Senate, but it would be a major victory for the corrupt GOP establishment, led by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
I think Mitch McConnell, to really bring unity to the Republican Party and get things done, I think Mitch McConnell ought to tender his resignation.
Moore's hypothetical defeat would narrow the Republican Senate majority to a thin 51-49 margin until next year's midterm elections, and it would bolster aspirations from Democrats to gain control of the Senate.
We have said all along that Roy Moore is not qualified to be a United States Senator.
It could also undermine President Trump's reforms, including his effort to overhaul the tax system, repeal and replace Obamacare, as well as economic deregulation. However, according to recent polls, the election is still hopeless for Democrat candidate Jones, as Judge Moore maintains his double-digit lead despite the ruthless and coordinated political attacks against him.
And if you look at this situation, you'll see that because I'm 11 points ahead, or 10 or 11 points ahead, this race being just 28 days off, that this is a political maneuver and has nothing to do with reality.
The GOP establishment and Senator Mitch McConnell in particular have been stiffly opposed to President Trump's reform agenda in recent months.
We put the spotlight on Mitch McConnell and said that this guy is just not supporting the president, and he's not supporting the president. The president needs support. He's going to drain the swamp.
Former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon said he is contemplating a major shake-up of the political system, which would make partisan politics more fair, transparent and representative of the American people and their interests, which could explain why Republican Party leaders were quick to condemn Judge Moore in the recent days, demanding he exit the race.
He should step aside. Number one, these allegations are credible. Number two, he should if he cares about the values and the people he claims to care about, then he should step aside.
Their attacks against Moore continue, despite the fact the accusations against him have been proven more inconsistent than otherwise. GOP leaders' shocking support of the Democrat left-wing cause of derailing Judge Moore's bid for Senate reveals the political establishment and high-profile corruption in D.C. is actually bipartisan machine politics.
I'm the only one that can unite Democrats and Republicans, because I seem to be opposed by both. They've spent over $30 million to try to take me out. They've done everything they could, and now they're together to try to keep me from going to Washington. And why?
This imitation of partisanship is tightly affiliated with the deep state and special interests, exploiting the mechanisms of political power to their own benefit.
These things are false, and it's ugly. It's the ugliest politics that I've ever been in my life.
Supporters of Judge Moore say the people of Alabama must rebuke the false allegations against him, perpetrated by dysfunctional Washington political elites who have repeatedly failed the country, its foreign policy and the economy, and are now trying their hardest to derail President Trump. Christian Rose, One American News.
Alabama voters are receiving fake robocalls from a man gathering damaging information on Senate candidate Roy Moore. Residents say they've received calls from a Washington Post reporter named Bernie Bernstein, who offered them money in exchange for negative information on Moore. But the Washington Post denied the claim, saying they never employed someone by that name, and the calls do not reflect their reporting methods.
Hi, this is Bernie Bernstein. I'm a reporter for the Washington Post. Calling to find out if anyone at this address is a female between the ages of 54 to 57 years old willing to make damaging remarks about candidate Roy Moore for a reward of between $5,000 to $7,000. We will not be fully investigating these claims. However, we will need a written report.
This comes as 5 women have accused Moore of sexual misconduct. Still not clear who's behind the fake calls. And Fox News host Sean Hannity warns his viewers about the dangers of anti-free speech groups, including Media Matters for America. He voiced his concerns earlier this week after the left-wing activist group coerced Keurig into ending its sponsorship on Hannity's show. The instant coffee giant confirmed it stopped advertising on the show due to pressure from Media Matters. Hannity said Keurig was the victim in the situation, reiterating that they were misled by the activist group.